The first day of the war changed everything. Commander Jinwoo watched 3 of his warships explode in the opening attack. Fire bloomed in the cold vacuum of space. Metal fragments scattered in all directions. 3,000 Valtari soldiers died in seconds. The humans had drawn first blood. Jinwoo shouted orders to his crew. The remaining ships moved into defensive formation. Their weapons charged and began firing at the planet below. Energy beams lanced down through the atmosphere. They struck cities and military bases. Buildings exploded. Fire spread. Thousands of humans died in the first bombardment. But the humans did not stop fighting. More missiles launched from hidden sites. More railgun satellites fired from orbit. The Valtari fleet had superior numbers and technology. But the humans had something else. They had determination. They had the will to fight until the very end. Captain Soo-jin climbed into her fighter jet at the Seoul Air Base. She was 28 years old and had never fired a weapon in real combat before today. Her hands shook as she strapped herself into the cockpit. Through the canopy, she could see the alien ships in the sky. They looked like dark metal mountains floating in the clouds. Her squadron leader spoke through the radio. His voice was steady and calm. He told them to stay in formation. He told them to aim for the weak points that Dr. Hai-jin had identified. He told them not to be afraid. They were defending their home. They were protecting their families. They would not fail. Soo-jin took a deep breath and started her engines. The jet roared to life. Around her, 50 other fighters did the same. The runway lights turned green. One by one, the jets accelerated and lifted into the air. They climbed toward the alien fleet. Tiny metal birds challenging the massive warships. The alien point defense systems detected the approaching fighters. Laser turrets swiveled and fired. Red beams cut through the air. 2 fighters exploded instantly. 3 more took damage and spiraled down toward the ground. But the rest kept coming. They spread out and attacked from multiple angles. Soo-jin locked her targeting computer onto the nearest warship. Her weapons system beeped, showing a green light. She pressed the trigger. A missile dropped from her wing and streaked toward the alien vessel. It punched through the shield and hit the hull. A small explosion bloomed on the ship's surface. She had heard it. The massive alien warship had taken damage from her tiny fighter. Soo-jin felt a surge of hope. If she could damage them, they could be beaten. She pulled hard on the stick and rolled away from return fire. Her squadron mates followed her lead. They dove and climbed and attacked again and again. In the Colorado bunker, General Woo Jin monitored the battle. Screens showed data from all over the world: Asia, Europe, Africa, the Americas. Everywhere, humans were fighting. Some battles were going well. Some were going badly. But nobody was giving up. A young lieutenant approached him with a report. The aliens had landed ground forces in Australia and South America. Thousands of alien soldiers were marching on major cities. They had advanced armor and powerful weapons. The local military units were trying to hold them back, but they needed reinforcement. Woo Jin made quick decisions. He ordered tank divisions to move south. He sent helicopter gunships and drone squadrons. He authorized the use of tactical nuclear weapons if the situation became desperate. He would not let the aliens take even one city. Every meter of ground would be defended. Dr. Hai-jin worked without sleep in her laboratory. She had not left the building in 30 hours. Empty coffee cups covered her desk. Her eyes were red and tired, but her mind was sharp. She was analyzing captured alien technology. One of the destroyed ships had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Recovery teams had pulled out pieces of equipment. Hai-jin studied an alien power cell. It was small but contained incredible energy. The technology was centuries ahead of human science. But she could understand the basic principles. She could see how it worked. And if she could understand it, she could copy it. She could improve it. She could turn the aliens' own technology against them. She called General Woo Jin. She told him she needed time and resources. She needed engineers and manufacturers. She needed every scientist who could help. Woo Jin gave her everything she asked for. Within hours, research teams around the world were studying alien technology. They were learning. They were adapting. On the Eternal Dawn, Commander Jinwoo received casualty reports. He had lost 15 ships in the first day. 15 ships destroyed by primitive weapons. His officers looked at him with concern. Some whispered that they should retreat. Some suggested calling for reinforcements from the Empire, but Jinwoo refused. He would not admit failure. He would not tell the Empire that he had been defeated by primitives. He would destroy this planet and everyone on it. He ordered a full planetary bombardment. Every weapon on every ship would fire at Earth's surface. The planet would burn. The humans would die. The order went out to the fleet. Energy weapons charged. Missile bays opened. The Valtari were preparing to commit genocide. They would wipe out the entire human race rather than admit they had been wrong. But Earth had one more surprise. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, beneath the command bunker where General Wu Jin worked, there was a secret facility. It held the most powerful weapon humanity had ever built. Scientists called it Project Thunder. It was an experimental weapon that used magnetic acceleration to launch projectiles at incredible speeds. The weapon had never been tested at full power. Nobody knew if it would work. But there was no choice now. The aliens were preparing to destroy the entire planet. Wu Jin gave the authorization code. Engineers activated Project Thunder. The massive weapon began to charge. Power flowed from nuclear reactors. Magnetic coils heated up. The building shook with the energy buildup. In space, Commander Jinwoo counted down the bombardment. 10 seconds. 9 seconds. 8 seconds. His fleet waited for his command. The weapons were locked on target. Earth was about to die. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second, Project Thunder fired. A metal projectile the size of a car launched from underground. It accelerated to 20% the speed of light in less than a second. It punched through the atmosphere and kept going. It crossed the distance to the alien fleet in heartbeats. The projectile hit the eternal dawn before Jinwoo could even see it coming. The kinetic energy was equal to a small nuclear weapon. The warship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Metal vaporized. Systems failed. The entire command structure was destroyed in an instant. Commander Jinwoo had no time to feel fear. He had no time to regret his decisions. One moment he was alive, planning the destruction of Earth. The next moment he was gone, turned to ash and vapor. The commander who had conquered 46 worlds had met his end on World 47. The remaining Valtari ships panicked. Their commander was dead. Their flagship was destroyed. The bombardment was canceled as ships tried to reorganize. In that moment of chaos, the humans pressed their advantage. More missiles launched. More fighters attacked. More railgun rounds tore through shields and armor. The Valtari fleet was learning a hard lesson. Earth was not like other worlds. Humans were not like other species. This war was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. Commander Jinwoo stood on the bridge of his warship, the Eternal Dawn, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the viewing screen. His 6 eyes studied the world with calm interest. This would be his 47th conquest. The planet looked peaceful, covered in water and white clouds. He had seen hundreds of worlds like this. They all fell the same way. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. Jinwoo felt confident. His scouts had returned with their report 3 weeks ago. The planet held primitive life. The creatures walked on 2 legs and built simple structures. They had basic machines and crude flying devices. Nothing that could threaten the Valtari Empire. The scout commander had shown him images. Cities made of concrete and steel, vehicles that ran on burning fuel, weapons that used chemical explosions. Jinwoo had laughed. These creatures were still in their industrial age. The Valtari had passed that stage 10,000 years ago. This would be easy. Jinwoo checked the fleet status on his command tablet. 200 warships waited behind him, ready to enter the planet's orbit. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Each ship held thousands of soldiers in cryosleep. The invasion force was prepared. In 3 days, the planet would belong to the Empire. What Jinwoo did not know was that Earth had been watching them too. Deep in a mountain bunker beneath Colorado, radar operators had tracked strange objects entering the solar system. The objects moved too fast to be asteroids. They changed direction in ways that natural objects could not. Something was coming to Earth, and it was not friendly. General Wu Jin sat in the command center, staring at the screens that showed the approaching fleet. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in 3 wars during his career. He had seen death and destruction. But this was different. This was not a war between nations. This was a war for the survival of the entire human race. The president had given him full authority. Every military base on Earth was now under his command. Every soldier, every tank, every ship, and every aircraft. For the first time in human history, all nations had agreed to work together. The old enemies had become allies. Russia, America, China, Europe, Africa, South America, all united against the common threat. Wu Jin pressed a button on his console. On the screen, a map of Earth appeared, covered in red dots. Each dot was a military installation. Each dot was a weapon waiting to be used. The aliens did not know about the nuclear missiles hidden in silos around the world. They did not know about the railgun satellites orbiting in secret. They did not know about the electromagnetic pulse weapons or the plasma cannons or the thousands of fighter jets waiting in underground hangars. The aliens had made a mistake. They had judged humans by their visible technology. They had seen cars and buildings and assumed humans were weak. But humans had something the aliens did not understand. Humans knew how to hide their strength. Humans knew how to prepare for war. For thousands of years, humans had fought each other. They had learned every trick, every strategy, every way to kill and survive. Dr. Hyejin worked in the research lab, studying the data from the alien ships. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had spent her whole life studying physics and mathematics. Now she was using that knowledge to save the world. The alien ships moved fast, but she could calculate their trajectories. She could predict where they would appear. Her team had discovered something important. The alien ships used energy shields to protect themselves. The shields could stop most weapons. But Hyejin had found a weakness. The shields used a specific frequency. If humans could match that frequency, they could pass through the shields. It would not be easy, but it was possible. She sent her findings to General Wu Jin. Within hours, engineers were modifying weapons to match the shield frequency. Nuclear missiles were being reprogrammed. Railguns were being recalibrated. Humans were adapting. Humans were learning. Humans were preparing to fight back. On the eternal dawn, Commander Jin Woo gave the order. The fleet jumped from hyperspace and appeared in orbit around Earth. 200 warships filled the sky, blocking out the sun in some places. On every continent, humans looked up and saw the massive vessels hanging in the air like dark clouds. Jin Woo activated the communication system. His message was broadcast to the entire planet in all human languages. The translation device made his voice sound calm and cold. He told the humans to surrender. He promised to spare their lives if they gave up their planet peacefully. He gave them 1 hour to respond. In the Colorado bunker, General Wu Jin listened to the message. His officers waited for his response. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. But Wu Jin felt calm. He had expected this. The aliens thought humans would be afraid. The aliens thought humans would give up without a fight. Wu Jin picked up the microphone. He transmitted his response to the alien fleet. His message was simple and clear. He told the aliens that Earth was not for sale. He told them that humans would fight. He told them that they had made a terrible mistake by coming here. Then Wu Jin gave a different order. He spoke into his command console, and his words went to every military base on Earth. He said one word: attack. Around the world, silo doors opened. Missiles launched into the sky, leaving white trails behind them. Satellites turned their weapons toward the alien fleet. Underground hangar doors slid open, and fighter jets roared into the air. On the oceans, warships fired their railguns. The sky filled with fire and metal. Commander Jin Woo watched in shock as thousands of weapons streaked toward his fleet. This was not possible. The primitives were supposed to be helpless. The primitives were supposed to surrender. Instead, they were fighting back with weapons he had not seen in the scout reports. The shields activated automatically. Most of the human weapons exploded harmlessly against the energy barriers. But then something strange happened. Some missiles passed through the shields as if they were not there. Some railgun rounds punched through and hit the hull armor. Some plasma beams burned through the shield frequency and melted the ship plating. Jin Woo felt fear for the first time in decades. The primitives had already learned to defeat his shields. The primitives had adapted. The primitives knew how to fight. He realized his terrible mistake. He had underestimated Earth. He had judged the planet by its surface. He had not looked deeper. He had not studied their history. He had not learned that humans had been at war for their entire existence. The Veltari Empire had just attacked the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and now they would pay the price. The death of Commander Jin Woo changed the war. The Veltari fleet had no clear leader. Ship captains argued about who should take command. Some wanted to retreat. Some wanted revenge. While they argued, the humans attacked with renewed strength. Lieutenant Daun sat in a dark room filled with computer screens. She was a cyber warfare specialist, one of the best in the Korean military. Her job was to break into enemy systems and steal information. Before the war, she had practiced against other human nations. Now she faced a real alien enemy. Daun typed rapidly on her keyboard. Her team had captured a Valtari communication device from a crashed ship. The device was different from human technology, but computers were computers. They all used logic. They all had patterns. She just needed to find the pattern. For 6 hours, she worked on breaking the alien code. She tried thousands of different approaches. Most failed. But slowly, piece by piece, she began to understand the alien language. Their programming used different symbols, but the structure was similar to human systems. They organized data the same way. They transmitted information using electromagnetic waves just like humans. Finally, she broke through. The alien communication network opened to her like a door unlocking. Daun smiled. She was inside their system. She could see their messages. She could read their orders. More importantly, she could send false information. She could make them confused. She could turn their own technology against them. She reported to General Wu Jin immediately. He understood the value of what she had accomplished. Information was power. With access to enemy communications, they could predict alien movements. They could set traps. They could win battles before they even started. On the ground, the war was brutal. Sergeant Hyun-soo led his squad through the ruins of Sydney. The aliens had bombarded the city in the first days of the war. Buildings were collapsed. Streets were filled with rubble. Fires still burned in places. The city looked dead, but it was not empty. Alien soldiers patrolled the streets. They were tall creatures, 8 feet high, covered in thick armor. They carried energy weapons that could melt steel. They moved in groups, communicating through hand signals. They thought they owned this city. Hyun-soo was about to show them they were wrong. His squad hid in a collapsed building. They were guerrilla fighters now. They could not match the aliens in open combat, so they used stealth and surprise. They studied the enemy. They learned their patterns. They found their weaknesses. Hyun-soo watched through binoculars as an alien patrol approached, 6 soldiers walking in a standard formation. They checked each building they passed. They were careful but not careful enough. They did not know that humans had been fighting urban wars for centuries. They did not know that every human soldier trained for this kind of combat. He made a hand signal to his team. They moved into position silently. 2 soldiers climbed to the upper floors of nearby buildings. 2 more hid behind rubble on the street. Hyun-soo and 1 other soldier stayed where they were. The trap was set. The aliens walked into the kill zone. Hyun-soo whispered into his radio. Now gunfire erupted from 3 directions. The aliens tried to activate their shields, but the human weapons were firing at the correct frequency. Bullets passed through the shields and hit the armor. The aliens scrambled for cover, but there was nowhere to go. The humans had picked this location carefully. It was a perfect ambush site. In 30 seconds, all 6 aliens were dead. Hyun-soo and his squad moved quickly. They grabbed alien weapons and equipment. They searched the bodies for anything useful. Then they disappeared into the ruins before reinforcements could arrive. This was how humans fought. Fast, smart, deadly. In orbit, Captain Soo-jin flew her 7th combat mission. She was tired. Her hands hurt from gripping the control stick. Her eyes burned from staring at screens. But she kept flying. Her country needed her. Her planet needed her. Her squadron had been reduced from 50 fighters to 12. Many of her friends were dead. She had watched them die in explosions of fire and metal. Each loss hurt, but she could not stop to mourn. She could cry later. Right now she had to fight. Today's target was a Valtari supply ship. Intelligence from Lieutenant Daun had revealed its location. The ship carried fuel and ammunition for the alien fleet. If it was destroyed, the aliens would be weakened. They would have fewer resources for bombardment. They would have to be more careful with their remaining supplies. Soo-jin led her squadron toward the target. The alien ship was large and slow, designed for cargo, not combat. But it still had defensive weapons. Laser turrets tracked their approach. The first shots missed, burning past the human fighters. Soo-jin ordered her squadron to split up. They spread out, attacking from different angles. The alien turrets could not track all of them at once. While some fighters drew fire, others slipped through the defenses. They launched missiles at close range. The missiles hit the supply ship's hull and detonated. Fire bloomed in space. The supply ship broke apart. Secondary explosions rippled through the wreckage as stored ammunition cooked off. Sujin pulled her fighter away from the debris. One more enemy ship destroyed. One small victory in a war full of losses. Dr. Hyejin made a breakthrough in her laboratory. She had been studying the alien power cells for days. Now she understood how they worked. The cells used a form of matter-antimatter reaction, but in a controlled way that humans had never achieved. The technology was brilliant. She could not build an exact copy. Human manufacturing was not precise enough. But she could build something similar. Something simpler but still effective. She designed a new power cell based on alien principles but using human materials. It would not be as efficient as the alien version, but it would be good enough. Hyejin sent her designs to manufacturers around the world. Within 48 hours, the first human-made hybrid power cells were coming off production lines. They were installed in missiles, making them faster and more powerful. They were installed in railguns, giving them longer range. They were installed in fighter jets, allowing them to fly higher and faster. The aliens had brought their technology to Earth. Now humans were using that technology to fight back. Every captured device was studied. Every piece of alien equipment was reverse engineered. Humans learned fast. They adapted faster. What took the Valtari centuries to develop, humans copied in days. General Wu Jin watched the war reports with grim satisfaction. The tide was turning. The aliens were still powerful, but they were losing ground. Their fleet was shrinking. Their ground forces were being pushed back. Their supply lines were being cut. The Valtari had made a critical mistake. They had assumed humans would fight like other species. They had assumed humans would give up when the cost became too high. They had assumed humans would value their own lives above their freedom. But humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They had fought for land, for resources, for ideas, for survival. They had destroyed entire cities in their own wars. They had developed weapons capable of ending all life on their planet. They knew the cost of war. They accepted it. They would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The Valtari Empire had picked the wrong planet to invade, and now they were learning that lesson in blood and fire. 3 weeks into the war, the Valtari fleet had lost half its ships. What began as 200 warships was now reduced to 97. Every day brought more losses. Every battle showed human forces growing stronger while the aliens grew weaker. Acting Commander Velcora stood on the bridge where Jin Woo had died. She was younger than the previous commander, less experienced, but she understood their situation better. The Valtari were losing this war. Pride had blinded Jin Woo. She would not make the same mistake. She studied the battle reports. Every engagement showed the same pattern. Humans adapted quickly. They learned from every fight. They copied Valtari technology and improved it. They found weaknesses and exploited them ruthlessly. The humans fought with a creativity and determination that Velcora had never seen in 40 years of military service. Her officers wanted to retreat. They wanted to call for reinforcements from the Empire. But Velcora knew the truth. Help would not come in time. The nearest Imperial fleet was 6 months away. The Valtari would not last 6 more weeks at this rate. She had to find another way. Major Taehyun led a team of engineers in rebuilding the defensive grid around Seoul. The city had taken heavy damage in the first days of the war, but it was far from destroyed. Humans had learned to build their cities tough. They had learned to survive disasters. Now they were using that knowledge to survive an alien invasion. Taehyun directed workers as they installed new weapon systems. These were not the old railguns from before the war. These were improved versions, using power cells based on captured alien technology. They could fire faster and hit harder. They could punch through shields that would have stopped the old weapons. Around the city, similar construction was happening. Every major city on Earth was being fortified. Humans had abandoned the idea of fighting in the open. Instead, they turned their cities into fortresses. They dug tunnels underground for safe movement. They mounted weapons on every tall building. They created kill zones and ambush points. If the aliens wanted to conquer Earth, they would have to fight for every street. They would have to clear every building. They would pay in blood for every meter of ground, and humans would make that price as high as possible. Captain Sujin flew a new fighter. Her old jet had been shot down 2 days ago. She had ejected safely and was picked up by a rescue team. Now she flew a prototype aircraft designed with hybrid technology. It was faster than any jet Earth had built before the war. It was more maneuverable. It had better weapons. The fighter felt alive under her hands. The engine hummed with power. The controls responded instantly to her thoughts. This was what human engineering could do when pushed to its limits. This was what happened when survival depended on innovation. Her mission today was different from the usual attacks. Intelligence had located Acting Commander Velcora's flagship. It was a massive warship, 3 times the size of normal Valtari vessels. If it was destroyed, the alien fleet would fall into chaos again. Command wanted that ship eliminated. Sujin led a squadron of 20 fighters toward the target. They were supported by bombers carrying heavy missiles. This was the largest strike mission Earth had launched in a week. Everything depended on its success. The alien flagship detected their approach. Defense fighters launched to intercept. Energy weapons charged. The battle began before the human forces even reached firing range. Sujin dove into the fight. Her new fighter moved like lightning. She rolled and spun through enemy fire. Her weapons locked onto alien fighters. She fired, and 2 enemies exploded. She pulled up hard and accelerated away from return fire. Around her, the battle raged. Human and alien fighters twisted through the sky. Missiles streaked in all directions. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Ships died on both sides. But the human forces pushed forward. They had a mission. They would complete it or die trying. The bombers reached firing range. They launched their missiles. Dozens of heavy warheads streaked toward the flagship. The alien point defense systems tried to shoot them down. Some missiles were destroyed, but many got through. They hit the flagship's shields with tremendous force. The shields flickered. They were overloaded. For 3 seconds, the flagship was vulnerable. Sujin saw the opportunity. She armed her remaining missiles and fired. Her entire squadron did the same. Hundreds of missiles hit the unshielded flagship in those 3 seconds. On the bridge, Acting Commander Velcora felt the ship shake. Alarms screamed. Fire suppression systems activated. Damage reports flooded in. The flagship was dying. She had minutes, maybe less. Velcora made her last command decision. She ordered all escape pods to launch. She told her crew to abandon ship. There was no shame in retreat now. They had fought well. They had done their best. But Earth was too strong. The humans were too determined. This war was lost. As escape pods ejected from the dying flagship, Velcora watched Earth on the view screen. It was a beautiful planet, green and blue and white. She understood now why the humans fought so hard. This was their home. They would defend it to their last breath. The Valtari had underestimated that bond. The flagship exploded. Metal fragments scattered across orbit. Velcora's escape pod tumbled away from the blast. Inside, she composed a message to the Empire. She told them everything. She warned them never to attack Earth again. She told them that humans were different. Humans were dangerous. In the Colorado bunker, General Wu Jin received the news. The alien flagship was destroyed. The enemy commander had evacuated. The remaining alien ships were breaking formation. Some were trying to retreat. Some were surrendering. The battle was won, but Wu Jin did not celebrate. He knew the cost. Millions of humans had died. Cities lay in ruins. The planet bore scars that would take decades to heal. Victory had been bought with blood and sacrifice. Dr. Heejin entered the command center. She looked tired but satisfied. She brought data recovered from captured alien computers. The information was valuable. It showed the location of other Valtari worlds. It showed their technology, their culture, their military strength. More importantly, it showed that the Valtari Empire was vast, but not invincible. They had conquered many worlds, but they had done it through overwhelming force against unprepared enemies. They had never fought a species like humans before. They had never faced an enemy that adapted so quickly. Wu Jin studied the data. A new understanding formed in his mind. This war had changed everything. Before, humans were divided into nations that fought each other. Now they were united. They had advanced their technology by decades in just a few weeks. They had proven they could fight and win against superior forces. Earth was no longer an isolated world. The galaxy knew about humanity now. The Valtari would spread the word. Other species would hear about the planet that defeated an imperial fleet. Some would fear Earth. Some would want to make contact. Some might even want to attack. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, Earth had survived. Humanity had passed its first test. They had shown the galaxy what humans could do when pushed to the edge. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not just another primitive world to be conquered. Earth was strong. Earth was dangerous. Earth would not be underestimated again. The last Valtari ship jumped into hyperspace and disappeared. Earth's orbit was clear for the first time in 4 weeks. The war was over. Humanity had won. In cities around the world, people came out of their shelters. They looked at the sky and saw only clouds and stars. The alien ships were gone. Some people cried with relief. Some people cheered. Some people just stood quietly, too exhausted to feel anything. Captain Su Jin landed her fighter at the Seoul Air Base. The runway was damaged but still functional. She climbed out of the cockpit slowly. Her body ached. She had flown 23 combat missions in 4 weeks. She had seen too many friends die. She had killed more enemies than she could count. Ground crew ran to check her aircraft. They found dozens of damage marks on the hull. Burn marks from laser weapons, dents from debris impacts. The fighter had been hurt badly but kept flying. It was like Earth itself. Damaged but not destroyed. Hurt but not defeated. Sujin walked to the operations building. Other pilots were there, drinking coffee and talking quietly. They looked tired. They looked older than they had been a month ago. War did that to people. It aged them. It changed them. But it had not broken them. Lieutenant Daon shut down her computer systems. The Cyber Warfare Center was silent now. No more enemy communications to intercept. No more alien codes to break. She had spent the entire war in this dark room, staring at screens, typing on keyboards. She had never fired a weapon in combat, but she had helped win the war just the same. The alien database she had captured was a treasure. It contained information about dozens of worlds. It showed technology that humans had never imagined. It revealed the structure of the Valtari Empire. This knowledge would shape humanity's future. Earth would never be the same. Taeyun stood and stretched. Her back hurt from sitting too long. Her eyes were dry from staring at screens. But she felt satisfied. She had done her part. She had used her skills to protect her people. That was enough. Sergeant Hyun-soo and his squad walked through Sydney. The city was still in ruins, but it was no longer a battlefield. Alien bodies had been removed. Human bodies had been recovered and given proper burials. Now came the hard work of rebuilding. Construction crews were already at work. They cleared rubble. They repaired roads. They restored power and water. The city would take years to fully recover, but it would recover. Humans knew how to rebuild. They had done it many times before in their history. Hyun-soo thought about the soldiers he had lost. Good men and women who had died fighting for their world. They deserved to be remembered. They deserved to have their names spoken with honor. He would make sure that happened. He would tell their stories. He would ensure that people knew what they had sacrificed. Dr. Haijin stood in her laboratory, looking at the alien devices on her workbench. She had spent weeks studying them. She had learned so much, but there was still more to discover. The alien technology was advanced, but humans could understand it. They could learn from it. They could improve it. The war had pushed human science forward by decades. Discoveries that would have taken generations were made in weeks. New materials, new energy sources, new weapons, new propulsion systems. Earth now had the foundation for faster-than-light travel. In a few years, maybe humans could reach other stars. Ijin felt excited about the future. The galaxy was vast. There were millions of worlds to explore. There were other species to meet. Some would be friendly, some would be hostile, but humans were ready now. They had proven themselves. They had shown they could survive and adapt. Major Tae-hyun inspected the new defense grid around Seoul. The weapons were impressive. They combined human engineering with alien technology. They could hit targets in orbit with devastating accuracy. They could shoot down incoming missiles. They could protect the city from any future attack. Similar defenses were being built around every major city on Earth. Humanity would never be caught unprepared again. They would never be vulnerable to surprise attack. They would always be ready to defend themselves. The war had taught them that lesson well. Tae-hyun felt proud of what his team had accomplished. They had worked without rest to build these defenses. They had used materials salvaged from destroyed alien ships. They had turned the enemy's own technology against them. Now Earth was stronger than ever before. In the Colorado bunker, General Wu Jin prepared his final report. The president wanted a complete accounting of the war. How many had died? How much had been destroyed? How much had been gained? The numbers were staggering. 15 million humans had died. Dozens of cities had been damaged or destroyed. The economic cost would take decades to recover, but humanity had gained something valuable. They had gained unity. They had gained advanced technology. They had gained confidence. They had gained their place among the stars. Wu Jin thought about the Valtari. They had come to Earth expecting easy conquest. They had thought humans were primitive and weak. They had not done their research. They had not studied human history. If they had, they would have learned something important. Humans had been fighting wars for 10,000 years. They had fought with sticks and stones, then with bronze and iron, then with gunpowder and steel, then with machines and computers. They had destroyed their own cities many times. They had developed weapons capable of ending all life on their planet. They knew war better than any species in the galaxy. The Valtari had brought war to Earth. But war was what humans did best. War was in their blood. War was part of their history. They had refined it. They had studied it. They had turned it into an art form. The aliens never had a chance. Wu Jin finished his report and sent it to the president. Then he stood and walked to the window. Through the thick glass, he could see the mountains of Colorado. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. It was beautiful. Earth was beautiful, and it was worth fighting for. Around the world, similar thoughts were happening. People looked at their planet with new eyes. They saw its beauty. They saw its value. They understood that they were not alone in the universe. There were other species out there. Some would be friends. Some would be enemies. But Earth was ready for both. The Valtari survivors would return to their empire with a warning. They would tell other species about the planet called Earth. They would tell them about the humans who lived there. They would describe how the humans fought, how they adapted, how they won. Some species would ignore the warning. Some would dismiss it as exaggeration. Some would think they could succeed where the Valtari had failed. If they came to Earth, they would learn the same lesson. Humans defended their home. Humans never surrendered. Humans would rather die than be conquered. But some species would take the warning seriously. They would study Earth from a distance. They would learn about human history. They would see the endless wars. They would see the destroyed cities. They would see the nuclear weapons. They would understand that humans were not like other species. These wise species would approach Earth with respect. They would offer friendship instead of conquest. They would trade instead of steal. They would learn that humans could be valuable allies. Humans were creative. Humans were innovative. Humans were survivors. These traits made them dangerous enemies but excellent friends. The war was over, but humanity's story was just beginning. They had passed their first test. They had proven themselves to the galaxy. Now they would reach for the stars. They would explore new worlds. They would meet new species. They would face new challenges, but they would face those challenges as they had always faced them. With courage, with determination, with the will to survive. Earth had stood against the Valtari Empire. Earth would stand against whatever came next. The aliens had launched a surprise attack. They had forgotten to check the planet's name. If they had, they might have thought twice. Earth. A simple name for a simple planet. But that simple planet had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Never underestimate a species that names their world after dirt and spends 10,000 years learning how to fight. Never attack Earth, never threaten humanity. Because humans will always fight back, always adapt, always survive, always stand. This was the story of Earth's first contact with alien life. This was the story of how humanity earned its place among the stars. This was the story of the day the galaxy learned to respect the name Earth.